The classroom is silent except for the faint scratching of pencils against paper and the occasional rustling of pages. I sit at my usual seat near the window, resting my chin on my palm, pretending to listen. The teacher drones on about history, but my mind is elsewhere. To be specific, it's on the girl sitting beside me, Yuki Tanaka. Her long dark hair is tied neatly back, her face calm and unreadable, as she diligently takes notes. She always looks so composed, so unreachable. Meanwhile, I'm barely holding myself together, trying not to get called on. Bored, I start tapping my pencil against the desk. A meaningless rhythm at first, but then I find myself structuring it into something familiar. Morse code. Tap, 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 tap. I don't expect anything to happen, but then tap, tap, tap. My hand freezes mid-motion. My eyes flick to Yuki, but she hasn't moved an inch. Her pencil glides across the page as if she hadn't just tapped back. My heartbeat quickens. Did she just reply? I swallow and tap again, carefully this time. Tap, 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 tap. Just passing time. There's a pause. Then, without looking away from her notebook, she taps back. Tap, 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 tap. Lame. I nearly choke. A smirk tugs at the corner of her lips, but she doesn't break her focus on her notes. It's as if she's daring me to continue. I hesitate. My fingers twitch against the desk. This is dangerous territory, but before I can stop myself, I tap again. Tap, 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 tap. You know Morse code? She stops writing. My breath catches as she lightly taps her response. Tap, 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 tap. Obviously. My stomach does a weird flip. That was unexpected. I shift in my seat and tap back. Tap, 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 tap. Why? For the first time, Yuki pauses. She taps her pencil against the desk, considering. Then she finishes writing in her notebook, closes it, and finally, without looking at me, she taps. Tap, 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 tap. Figure it out. My breath hitches. My grip tightens around my pencil. She's toying with me. And I don't know why, but suddenly I can't wait for our next conversation. It starts the next day. I don't even have to initiate it. The moment I sit down, Yuki casually taps against the desk. It's so subtle that, if I weren't paying attention, I might have missed it. But I am paying attention, more than ever. Tap. Tap, tap, tap. 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 Good morning. I blink. Did she just... My fingers twitch, but I force myself to stay calm. Carefully, I tap back. Tap, 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 tap. Morning. She doesn't acknowledge me otherwise. Doesn't even glance my way. But there's a tiny upturn at the corner of her lips as she keeps writing in her notebook. I exhale, shaking my head slightly. This girl is something else. The day goes on like that. Small taps, little exchanges in Morse code between classes. At first, the messages are simple. Tap, 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 tap. How's class? Tap, 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 tap. Boring. But over time, they become longer, more personal. Tap, 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 tap. Why do you know Morse code? There's a pause before she taps back. Tap, 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 tap. My grandfather taught me when I was a kid. That surprised me. I glance at her, but she's still focused on her notebook, acting like we aren't having an entire conversation in secret, right under everyone's noses. Tap, 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 tap. That's cool. She pauses, then taps, tap, 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 tap. I know. I nearly roll my eyes. Of course she'd say that. Days pass. The more we talk like this, the more I start to look forward to it. It's weird how something as simple as tapping on a desk could feel so exciting. I don't know what's happening between us, but I know one thing. I don't want it to stop. The next few days fall into a routine, our secret Morse code conversations growing longer, more intricate. It's like an unspoken agreement between us, our own private world of tapped-out words that no one else can hear. But then, one afternoon, Yuki throws me off completely. Class is dragging, the kind where even the teacher looks half asleep. I rest my head on my hand, idly twirling my pencil, waiting for Yuki's first tap. But this time she doesn't start. She's writing in her notebook, her brows slightly furrowed. I shift, hesitating before tapping a single word. Tap, 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 tap. Bored. She stops writing. Then slowly she taps back. Tap, 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 tap. Thinking. Thinking about what? I tap again, curious. Tap, 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 tap. About? There's a long pause, too long. Then finally she taps. Tap, 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 tap. Do you like someone? I nearly drop my pencil. My body tenses as if she had shouted the words instead of discreetly tapping them out. I stare at my desk, my heart hammering. Is she teasing me? Or does she actually want to know? I consider playing dumb, pretending I misread it, but my fingers move before I can think better of it. Tap, 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 tap. Maybe. She doesn't respond right away. I steal a glance at her, but she's looking straight ahead, completely still. Then she taps something new, something that makes my throat go dry. Tap, 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 tap. Who? A cold sweat forms on the back of my neck. My fingers hover over the desk, frozen. I could lie. I could make a joke, dodge the question like I always do. But I don't. My fingers move on their own. Tap, 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 tap. You. Silence. The seconds stretch unbearably long. Yuki doesn't move, doesn't react. It's like the air around us has gone completely still. Then, tap, 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 tap. Idiot. But there's no venom in it, no mockery. Instead, for the first time since this strange exchange began, she turns her head and meets my eyes. And she smiles. The next morning I arrive at my desk earlier than usual. My hands feel restless against the wooden surface, my mind replaying yesterday's conversation on an endless loop. I told her. I actually told her. And she smiled. I don't know what that means. Maybe she thinks I'm an idiot. Maybe she found the whole thing amusing. But she didn't reject me. Not in words, not in a tap, not even with a look. Just when I think I'll die from overthinking, a single tap against the desk snaps me out of my thoughts. Tap, tap, tap.
Rooftop period.
I look at her, but Yuki is already facing forward, her expression unreadable. The school bell rings before I can respond, and we're thrown into the motions of another school day. But I can't focus. Rooftop. She wants to meet. By the time lunch break arrives, my nerves are stretched thin. My feet carry me up the stairwell before I can hesitate. When I push the door open, she's already there, leaning against the railing, wind-teasing strands of her dark hair. She doesn't turn immediately, just says,
You sure took your time, huh?
I swallow hard. I wasn't sure if you meant it. Yuki finally looks at me, her eyes studying mine.
You're not going to take it back, are you?
I shake my head. No. She exhales softly, tapping her fingers lightly against the metal railing. A habit now, or maybe it always was. Tap. Tap, tap, tap. Tap. Tap.
Good.
A nervous laugh escapes me. You're really making me work for this, huh? She tilts her head slightly, considering. Then she lifts her hand and taps against my wrist. Tap, 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 tap.
I like you too.
My breath catches. I stare at her, my heartbeat a complete mess, waiting for the punchline, the teasing remark, the moment where she tells me I fell for the oldest trick in the book. But it doesn't come. Instead, she's looking at me with something softer than a smirk, something I don't think I've ever seen from her before.
Say something.
I clear my throat, trying to keep my voice steady. Okay, but just so you know, I still plan on winning. Her eyes flicker with amusement.
Winning what?
I grin, tapping against the railing one last time. Tap, 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 and your heart. For once, Yuki is the one caught off guard. She rolls her eyes but doesn't look away. Instead, she nudges me, just slightly, just enough.
I'd like to see you try.
And just like that, it's a challenge. One I intend to win. The days after the rooftop confession slip into something new, something different, yet comfortable. Yuki and I still sit beside each other in class, still tap out messages on the desk. But now there's an unspoken understanding between us. A shift, a warmth. One afternoon I tap first, tap, 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 tap. So, now what? Yuki barely pauses before tapping back. Tap, 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 tap.
You tell me.
I exhale a quiet laugh, shaking my head. Some things never change. You're impossible, I mutter under my breath. She glances at me, a small smirk playing on her lips.
And yet you're still here.
I roll my eyes but don't deny it. Instead, I press my fingers against the desk again, more deliberate this time. Tap, 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 tap. Date this weekend? For the first time since we started this strange habit, she hesitates. Then slowly, deliberately, she reaches out and taps. Tap, 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 tap.
Yes.
I try not to let my grin get too obvious, but I know she sees it anyway. She rolls her eyes and flicks my arm, but there's no malice in it, only something close to amusement. Maybe even fondness. And as the bell rings, as our classmates shuffle around us, as the world continues like nothing has changed, I know that, for me, everything has. Because this thing between us, it's real. And it's only just beginning. Final message. Even now our fingers keep tapping. And they always will.